Okay, now we're running. Okay, so thank you everybody for joining. Sorry to be a couple minutes late. We're settling in after spring break. I'm not sure why we chose, a few days after spring break to do this, but that's okay. So this is our April meeting. We have a great speaker that will join us at 7:30, and I'm really looking forward to it. Let's see, somebody asked if we're running captions. There are English captions through Zoom, and there are Spanish captions running on the PowerPoint, just to capture some Spanish translation, since we weren't able to get a Spanish translator. We wanted to have at least this available. So thank you for that question. So we will start off with the officers' reports. We'll do about a half an hour of PTA business, and then we'll get to the speaker. So President's update. First and foremost, we need to talk about elections. Kathleen.
Yeah, so we have several open positions from president-elect, and just thinking through the list, communications, fundraising. Yeah, we have some really big
awards.
Awards. So we have some big open positions that we need help filling. At the end of the day, if we don't have a president in role, we do have a treasurer and we do have a secretary. But if we don't have a president signed up next year, Allison and I cannot do it according to VA PTA rules. We will not exist as a PTA next year. We recognize that this is not an easy role, and it is a time commitment that is challenging as a working parent. There are often times when I'm responding to emails very late at night. But I can tell you hands down, this is honestly one of the greatest groups of individuals I've ever had the pleasure of working with. And on top of that, the work that we do is incredibly powerful and meaningful in this community. So I'm very much speaking from my heart when I say, if you have the inclination and the will to want to do this, it is an amazing opportunity to dive into this work and give back in a way that that is just so incredibly meaningful for our families and for our kids and for the teachers in our community. And I really, really hope that we can keep this going, and that somebody can, even if it's scary, step up to the plate. And Allison and I will be here the whole way through, just like Jana was for us, and guide through this process. But it is an incredibly important role and we need advocates. We really need people to advocate across the board for our students with disabilities. So there's my speech on that. We can't do it unless we have somebody step up. Time commitment breakdown is, I would say there were some weeks when, my workload is 1 or 2 hours, and Allison's has been a little bit more. And then just because of how Allison and I decided to break things down, and this is where we can help lend support next year. And then there are other times when my time commitments to meetings were probably 10 hours total in a week, just in the meetings, and the prep work was like all day on a Sunday. Those are rare, probably 3 times a year that happens, oftentimes before a big event that we're doing, like the super chat. But that's why those support positions are built in, so that you have the support there. So communications can help with it. If we had somebody that was really well versed with technology, that would be helpful, because a lot of the bandwidth that Allison and I spent, we spent doing some administrative stuff that if we had other roles filled, that we wouldn't necessarily have to do ourselves. At the same time, we've been able, I mean, if you look at the enhancements that Allison has made to this site, they're pretty phenomenal. And so, you know, we work really hard to try to provide great resources for everybody. I think one of the things that I have most enjoyed in doing this, although it is a time commitment, it has been an amazing opportunity to get to know the leadership team in APS for this, is doing our joint meetings with ASAC, with Office of Special Education, and also the Ccpta work, so that we are on a district-wide level. And I saw your question in there about how did the co-presidents materialize? Honestly, that's something that doesn't normally happen within Virginia PTA standards, but when COVID kicked in and there was an enormous amount of work that had to be done on the front of like the amount of advocacy that was required, and I would say also with the administrative stuff on the back end, we were used to doing in-person meetings. And then all of a sudden we had to figure out how to do meetings online to maintain connections with the community. It took a lot of work to do that. So Allison is definitely a tech guru. And I prefer, you know, talking, speaking, and doing those kind of engagements, and lending, you know, my voice to advocacy work for the community. So, so we kind of split where our strengths were to be able to dig into this work as deeply as we knew we were going to have to do through COVID and the pandemic.
Yeah, I mean, it's worked out well. The balance of our sort of strengths and weaknesses. I mean, so technically, according to Virginia PTA bylaws, you can only have one president at a time. So what they recommended was that one of us was president, one of us was president-elect. And then, so currently, Kathleen is on paper past president, and I am the current president on paper. But it's doable. Apparently, there are some other PTAs out there that do it. So if you do have somebody in mind that, you know, is a good friend that you think is a good balance to sort of trade off meetings with, or just kind of split the workload, it's definitely doable, and it's worked out great for us. Thank God. Thank God for this. And that goes for any position, frankly.
Yeah.
If there's somebody that's you know, you would work well with, and is willing to split the workload, great. Whatever makes it doable, the more the merrier, frankly.
Yeah, and I would just also say that Allison and I and Jana, you know, we internally we sort of made the decision to, with the pandemic, we aligned a lot more with ASAC in the last 2 years to do some of this work. And so there is some work that we've stepped up to do to help support ASAC, but like the greater good of the community, because the challenges that we have found over the last 2 years have disproportionately impacted our community. As things, I'm going to say very loosely, are normalizing, because they're, you know, let's let's be real, they're not really normalizing all that much, but as things start to normalize, I don't know that the workload will be as intense, but that doesn't mean that things, that there aren't moments that they aren't, because there are, but it's a volunteer role and you do what you can and you do the very best that you can.
And I will be here to remind whoever of that, just as I did with Jana, I do with Kathleen. We are volunteers, and it's important to remember that, because there are some people out there that can be a little demanding, and we do the best we can. And it is a fulfilling way to get to participate in the community and give back. So it's been well worth it, I would say. Let's see. Are there any other questions?
I was going to say, that's my
Going
spiel.
through.
That's my contribution.
Oh, and the question about time commitments, aside from president, I would say most of the positions are sort of what you make of it, honestly. You could always commit more time into improving whatever systems we have in place. You can always split the time by recruiting, communications, for instance. There's always somebody that could do Facebook, somebody that could do Twitter, somebody that could just do emails or newsletter. So it really is what you have time to give. And I would say probably president is the one that, throughout the year, there's a consistent time commitment. And some of the others, the awards, for example, I think Maria would say for most of the year, it's pretty good. Right now is the crunch time, because it's right before awards. It's really getting the nominations in and making sure they get reviewed, contacting all the candidates, and organizing the award ceremony. So, it's about like a month of crunch time. Let's see, was there another question? No, I think that's okay. I think that's pretty much it. Kathleen, did you have anything else to add for President's report?
So the only other thing that we have the upcoming Ccpta meeting. So we've been really good this year about getting time at each of the Ccpta meetings to be able to share out Ccpta communications. And they have been very good at working with us to ensure information gets shared out. I know we had a meeting back in March to talk about some of the changes to special education and where we were with the 5-year plan and how that was working out. So Kathleen Donovan, I think she's on the call right now. They were able to talk a little bit about what PRC does. And one of the great things that we're trying to put together is some tips to making PTA events and PTA meetings more inclusive, and what that might look like, because I'd love to say everybody knows, but honestly, until I got more invested in this and learned more about our incredibly diverse community and what those needs might look like, I didn't know either. So I think this is a great opportunity to use the forum of Ccpta to share out ways that we can truly make PTA events and meetings inclusive to all parents and students. And I think that was it.
Okay. So we are going to move to the treasurer's report. I think Greg just recently joined.
Yes, sorry for let me see if I can get myself, can you all see me? I can't, but you can hear me, I hope.
We can hear you.
Okay, well.
I'm trying to change over. There we go.
I had the little screen up. Oh, thank you. Thank you. This is the treasurer's report through the end of March. And it's really been a very quiet period this spring, financially at least. And I just happened to look in our PayPal and we have a zero balance. About 3 weeks ago, I transferred some money over. So we don't have any money there, but we do have money in our Wells Fargo account, and it's pretty stable. We're trending about the same as we were about a month ago. We are still burning money a little bit, but not at any alarming or rapid pace. It's pretty much consistent with the budget.
Great.
So unless
That's what we want to hear.
I'm sorry. Sorry.
Oh, I said, that's great. That's what we want to hear.
Yeah. I'm sorry to use the term burning. That doesn't sound too good, but that's what we do with money. We use it. So, and that's what we're supposed to do. There's been a lot of activity the last few months in the mini grant world, which is what we'd expect. So unless anyone has any specific questions from me, over and out.
So the only thing I would add is we would like to add a line item to this year's budget and future budgets for a sponsored membership fund. We've done a little research. We would like to broaden the availability of membership to anyone who would like to join. And we don't want money to be an issue for people to access our programs or having a voice in our PTA. So we've always sponsored teacher memberships. And technically, we really should have been doing the sponsored member fund. But it looks like it's a relatively new thing for the National PTA to give this guidance anyway. So now we will get it on the books. Any money given to the sponsored membership fund can only go for sponsored memberships, and money can be carried over from 1 year to the next. So we will have, if it is passed tonight, we will have it available online, this weekend. I'll put it up. And so if you would like to sponsor a teacher, you can specify a name. If you would like to just give to the membership fund, you could do that as well. And yeah, if there are any questions, I'm happy to answer any. And if there aren't any questions, I'm going to put a poll up for voting.
Could I, sorry, excuse me. Could I just ask a clarifying question? I just want to be sure.
Yeah.
So this sponsored membership fund would be, I'm here pointing at the financial report. You can't see my finger, but it would be an expenditure category.
So it would be a receipts.
So if if a member wanted to donate, or if the PTA were to grant or donate, it would appear as a receipt. $100, $500 would appear that way.
Yeah.
Okay. And then the expenditure on the expenditure side, so a payout from that fund, how would that appear?
Oh gosh. I think there would actually, so there would be two line items, one in each.
Okay, I think that would do. So
yes.
So that way it would be both a fund in that it's a place to put money, but it's also a spending category. So sorry to drag everybody through that, but I just want to make sure I understood it so that I mechanically do it right here. on the
Yes.
thing. Okay. I think
No,
I
that's a
got it.
great question. Thank you for asking.
Thank you.
And this is stuff that I researched before spring break, so my mind is not there anymore.
I hear you.
So, sorry, it took a minute. But yes, I believe one line item in each
Okay.
is basically what we would be adding from here on out. So I'm trying to pull up the poll. Oh, and the poll is not pulling up. Let's see. Well, it's not letting me do polls for some reason. So we might have to send that out via email for people to vote online. Apologize about that. But it'll give people more time to ask questions if somebody thinks of something. So I will send that out in an email after the meeting, and we'll give people a day or so to vote on it. And then if it's passed, we'll make it active on our website.
Okay.
So anything else from you, Greg?
No.
Okay. So next we'll move to membership. I think Karen is on.
Hey, I'm here, having some delays, but Allison, I don't have anything to report other than what you've already covered, unless there's anything that you want to address with me.
Nope, just, anyone can join at any time. Just, there's no limit to what time of the year you can join. The more the merrier.
Or donate. Anybody can donate at any time either.
Sure.
And so we'll send out another reminder through the PRC newsletter that we've done before, but anybody can join at any time and anybody can donate anytime as well.
Great. Let's see, advocacy committee. I think Wendy is on.
Hi, yes, I'm here. Good evening, everybody. So the advocacy committee will meet next again in a few weeks in mid-May. Some of the current needs that we are or will be addressing, I'll just kind of run through quickly so people have an idea of what's going on and to see if there's anyone who wants to help. So Kathleen, Allison, and I met with two members of the Gifted Services Advisory Committee recently to discuss APS's plan to offer intensified classes in all core subjects in middle school. And this is going to happen, not immediately, but in about a year. So we did appreciate them reaching out to us. They're reaching out to a lot of different communities. So we discussed how this will impact students with disabilities, what concerns we've heard from the community, and what steps APS needs to take to support students with disabilities so that they can fully and truly access these classes if they are, appropriate instructionally. So, this was an initial conversation, and the advocacy committee will be discussing, any additional steps that Ccpta may want to take to ensure that students with disabilities will, in fact, have full access to these classes with appropriate support, because we are aware of past issues with support for students with disabilities in Intensified and AP and dual enrolled classes in high school. So we want to learn from that and, try to advocate for things to look, as they should in middle school as this rolls out. Second thing is a parent recently brought to our attention a potential issue with the plan for accessible parking at the Heights. A plan is in place now to put parking. There's actually no on-site parking at all at the Heights right now. And then, so obviously there's no accessible parking. And there is a plan and has been a plan in place for some time to put parking on site and to improve the entrance to the Shriver program. We've been involved in this for a long time in terms of advocating for these things. So this is the first that we'd heard that there may be some issues at the county level with getting this approved. So we're in the process of getting more information. This is definitely a concern for us. The Heights houses the Shriver program, which includes a number of students who use wheelchairs. So we certainly want to stay on this. There are some upcoming county meetings coming up If anyone wants to get involved and can attend those on behalf of Ccpta, please let me know. We'd appreciate that so we can both learn more and advocate as needed. Third, we've been receiving multiple reports pretty much all year of problems with bullying of students with disabilities across different schools, and it seems to be a particular problem in middle schools. So we have been supporting parents and advocating for improvements. Kathleen and her son have really taken the lead on this, and we will be discussing as a committee in May any further steps that we may want to take. So I don't think we're all the way there on this one. And another thing that we've been working on is COVID accommodations for students with disabilities, particularly when APS went mask optional. This impacted students with disabilities who have medical conditions, immune compromised, a range of things, including students with disabilities who can't wear masks for their disability related reasons, so are more reliant on mask wearing by others. And these students require and are entitled to accommodations around them, being distanced from people who are not masked, having their instructors wear masks, and even having, because of the recent court decision that clarified this, having some peers around them wear masks if appropriate. So this is an area in which we've been working pretty closely with ASAC on, and it's been frustrating. We've encouraged APS to put out communications to communicate to people how they can get these accommodations, and APS has not done that. So Ccpta did put out an information sheet. Unfortunately, we're continuing to receive reports from parents who have actually followed APS's process, but are still not able to get these accommodations in place after trying for weeks and weeks. So this is an ongoing problem area for many families, and I'm sure there are even more families who probably don't even know how to advocate for their kids and what to do. So this is one that we will need to continue to be on top of, and we'll be discussing at our next meeting as well, and continuing to work on. So there's some other issues that I've raised before, but I think that kind of hits the highlights for what we're currently working on, including some newer ones. Also, just wanted to say that it's just been absolutely fantastic working with Kathleen and Allison, and this is advocacy is an area that works closely with the president or presidents, because sometimes the messaging is best coming from the presidents, and so we definitely work as a team on that, and I will be continuing in this role next year and here to support the new president, and eager and willing to work closely with whoever it is. So if anyone has any questions, happy to answer them. That's all I have.
Thank you, Wendy. And we are incredibly grateful for your support the last 2 years. My gosh.
There's been a lot going on. Yeah, we started this committee in 2020, and it was a good idea needed anyway, but it really, really was needed in the past couple of years. There's so much that has happened. So many new things.
And the committee has been so great. I'm so thankful for everybody that's been involved. It's been a lot of work, but necessary.
Yeah, I mean, this is really a team effort. When we created this, we created it intentionally as a committee because we have a wonderful group, and we come together and together decide how to approach things. And it's not like it's a one-person thing. The value brought to it by different people's ideas and perspectives is how we do it. And it's just also really nice working with other people on things, and working as a team makes it a lot more enjoyable as well.
Thank you, Wendy. I don't want to delay our speaker too much more. So Maria, let's hear about the awards.
Can you see me?
Yep.
Okay, good. Hi, everybody, and thank you for being here tonight. I'll be short. I just want to tell you that things are up and running, and things, I think they're on schedule, and things should go well. And I do also want to say thank you, Allison, and thank you for all the reviewers that are working hard. So we got, God, I didn't get the total, but very quickly, we got 4 for the administrative Turner. Crawford is the Educator Award at 22. The support, which is aid or assistance, got 8 nominations. My Bride is the school or program, I got 2. Ally got 2, and Student Ally, or student would be 2. Did I repeat that? No, I did not. The one award that didn't get one was Howie, and Allison and I have been talking about it to see how we're proceeding. New things, we're trying to give a specific name to one of the awards. So Allison, also thank you. She sent Tally a survey to see if people were agreeing on that change, and I think it's proceeding well. So the awards are for May 10th. They're still in person. Hopefully they will stay that way. So I'm right now kind of like transitioning into putting together the ceremony. So the one thing I want to ask everybody, if you know a particular act, any student that would love to present or choir or something, that is the area that I need help with. But everything else, I think, is kind of like under control. Little things now and then, but I keep knocking on the door with Allison, and she's supporting. So, yeah, that would be about it. I do want to kind of like say the same thing, that it's very rewarding to do this. And as Allison said, it is intense for a month, but the other times it's not really. So, and things are kind of like also in place. Allison changed the website greatly. We have a lot of the forms, etc., already set up, so things are much easier. They're more digitalized nowadays. So anybody who would like to step in, I'd be happy to also help next year. But I just can't really take the lead, but I'd be happy to help and support. So that would be it for me, unless Allison, you feel like I'm missing something.
No, I think that covered it. Let's see, I think, were there a couple of questions? Oh, just a question about the subtitles. So there are some Spanish subtitles that are connected to the PowerPoint, the slides in the background, but you can also do English closed captioning through Zoom. We just wanted to capture some Spanish translation in our recording. Since we weren't able to get a translator, we did at least want to do some subtitles. Let's see. I think that's it. So next up, we have Kristen for parent liaisons.
Hi
Kristen?
there.
Okay.
Can you guys see me, hear me? Can you hear me?
We can hear you.
Okay. I don't have many updates. I'll just remind all the parent liaisons that there is a listserv that's restricted to the liaisons to allow for virtual collaboration. We don't have all the liaisons on the listserv. It's something that I can't manually add you. You have to approve, and I've sent invites a couple times, but I'm going to drop the link in to the chat. So if you're a parent liaison and not on the listserv, go to that link and I can approve you and get you on it. It hasn't had a lot of discussion. I encourage people to use it. And if people have feedback about what might make it better, please let me know.
Awesome. Thank you. Thank you, Kristen. Let's see. I think Cecilia will be the last one to speak for tonight.
Hi. Sure, and I can just be quick. The main point is what Allison has there on the agenda. We had a really great meeting hosted by ASHPA, the Hispanic Association of Parents, Escuelas de Arlington, in Arlington schools. And it was sort of a joint presentation between ASAC and Ccpta. I believe there were about 37, was it? participants, and we had a 3-hour plus meeting. Some great questions, great engagement. I think it was just an incredible, there's a lot of debriefing and planning to do post the meeting that will be great to sort of operationalize the issues that came up. But there's a lot to do. There's a lot of interest. I came away feeling from the community a lot of good engagement that can be done in terms of education, dispelling myths, just get involvement from the Hispanic community, and a lot of interest. So it was just a great step forward to engaging with the Hispanic community, and there'll be a lot of I think creative ways to continue that. So
Thank you, Cecilia. It was a great but long meeting. But it just went to show like how needed it was. It was really eye-opening, and I'm so glad we did it. And with that, I'm just admitting a few more people. And I believe Justine is with us. Am I right?
Yes, if you,
Yay.
I got lost for a minute. So if you hang on for just a minute, I'm trying to get back in. Okay.
And I have your slideshow up, so just let me know when you'd like to switch slides.
Okay. Here we go. Okay, I think. Okay. Thank you. Something's going wrong.
Looks like you might have two sign-ins.
Do you have?
Let me get.
You just need to mute the mic of one of the sign-ins.
Okay, I'm sorry. I just.
That's it. You're good.
Okay.
You sound
Okay.
good.
Do I sound good? Okay. Sorry.
Yeah.
Thank you. Thank you so much, Kathleen and Allison. I so appreciate you inviting me here to speak about this incredible topic. And I want to just say welcome to everybody. Good evening. My name is Justine Ruotolo. I'm a licensed marriage and family therapist. I'm also an executive function and ADHD coach. And I'm here and I'm live in McLean. So my office is open. And I also am doing virtual meetings with people as well. So if we could move to the first slide. I want to talk a little bit about my practice. I've been in practice for 28 years. I moved here in 2020 during the pandemic. I was living in California, came here to help out with my mom, who at the time was 100. We had to get her out of her home, and she lasted until the day before she was 101. So I had some time with her before she passed on. She had a great life. So I was diagnosed with ADHD at age 40. After my oldest child was diagnosed at age 7, my younger child was diagnosed with ADHD and ASD at age 8. My marriage ended in divorce when my children were 20 and 17 because of the stress and the lack of effective communication. My ex-husband did not have ADHD and therefore could not really understand our challenges. So my children now happily are 34 and 31 and living successful lives. So I like to share with my clients, with presentations that I make to other people, about things that went on in my life with my children, and also share some of the things that go on in my practice. So we can move to the first slide. Thank you. Okay, so there's what I notice in this world, because this is really a very difficult place to be. You not only have a relationship, you have a marriage, you have a partnership, you also are dealing with a child or children, in my case, with special needs, with ADHD and ASD. And so many times we might be asking ourselves, did I cause this? And I do have a lot of clients that will come in and they'll ask me that question because they're struggling with it. I struggled with it. I went back and thought about my pregnancy, and then lo and behold, at age 40, I find out that I have ADHD, which brought up some guilt for me in terms of transferring that over to my 2 children. I think for that particular thing, did I cause it? I think it's something that we need to talk about, get it out, and move on, because you have a child now or children that need you, and they need your attention, and you need to be self-caring if you're feeling that way and seeing someone to talk about it. The second thing is, am I doing enough? Am I doing too much? So am I doing enough? There's a lot of guilt around here, especially when kids are young and they're in school and they may be struggling with different things. I would always check in with the kids, even the kids before they get to middle school. Check in and find out how they're doing, see what they need from you. Do they need organization? Do they need time management? Get them the help that they need for that. And also whatever you can do to keep them as organized as possible. As they get older and they're into their teenage years, ask them more, get more involved with, what do you need from me right now? And don't worry about doing too much unless you become a helicopter parent as they get older, because that's not good, especially if they're going to go on to college. They need to really understand that they are going to make mistakes. They are going to have struggles, and they are going to have issues. And you can help them with those by either getting them somebody to talk to, getting them a coach to work with them, but doing as much as you can, but also letting them do things for themselves. Here's another one that causes guilt and shame. What about other children? Other children in the family that do not have disabilities. This is something to deal with, to talk to your children about. I do know that parents have told me that the children in the family without the disability sometimes are very worried about their younger siblings, just, have the information for them. Tell them about what they have, explain it to them. Also, they can get very angry at the children with special needs because they feel like the parents are spending a tremendous amount of time with them. So in this way, what I'd like you to do is make some special time. And I understand carving out special time can be difficult. So you don't have to do it every week, but maybe you and your partner, your husband, your wife can figure out a way to switch off and spend some special time with the children that do not have the disability. Okay, we can move on. So there's a lot of guilt around how we treat our spouse or partner, because sometimes that's the person we'll attack in the moment. If we're upset about something, we may get up in the morning. Sometimes when we get up, we have the what ifs in our head, a lot of thoughts running through it. And there's our husband, our wife, our partner could be right there. So we say something, we're being mean, maybe not being thoughtful. My advice when something like that happens is maybe not exactly in the moment, but during the day, to reach out and to tell the person that you hurt how you're feeling. Communication, connection is the most important thing in this situation with you being parents of children with special needs. Understand your feelings that you're having. That's very important. If you really understand how you feel, then you're able to share your feelings with each other. You can really say, you know what, I'm feeling guilty, and here's why I'm feeling guilty. I'm watching this little child about struggle through life, and talk to your partner, talk to your spouse about this, so the two of you together can climb this mountain with this child or children together and feel so much support from each other. And when you need it, get outside help. So we can move on. So commitment. So this is something that I came up with years ago, and I see it's on the internet now. It's very interesting, but I have people when they come to me and they have special needs children, mostly with ADHD and ASD, I have them create a commitment statement, just telling each other why they got into this marriage in the first place, about the love that they had for each other and how committed they are, not only to each other, but then to the family. Write up your own commitment statement and share it with each other and sign that statement. That's very powerful. So you're committed. Here's a big one. Greet each other each day. This sounds very minute, but there are many people that don't take the time because you're passing by each other, especially early in the morning. You've got the kids to get up, get them to school. You need to just take a second, 2 seconds to say hello to each other, to hug each other, to give each other a kiss. Quality time with each other can help with the commitment that you made for each other. Make this relationship more than just about the children, and even the children with the special needs. Make it about each other first. Because remember, if you're not okay, the children are not going to be okay. This is so important. Showing appreciation to each other. That's just one of the biggest things. Saying thank you to each other for the littlest things that you're doing each and every day for the children in the family and for each other. We can move on to the next one. Accept each other for who you are. Don't try to change each other. This is something else that's big. So when you marry someone, you marry them for who they are. As time goes on and we're in a relationship, sometimes we begin to see things about each other that maybe we might want to change. And especially where you have kids with special needs, you may not like the way one parent is parenting. Talk about that. Don't try to change each other. Just accept each other and love each other. Don't do the blame game. It's dangerous, especially with special needs children. You have to be very careful about blaming each other for things that possibly, happened with the child. The child had a problem at school, or they have a problem with bullying at school, or problem with friends. Don't blame each other. Be together, connect. Connection is the most important thing if you really want to help your children. Work on being loving and kind and supportive, even when the day was overwhelming. So I didn't start off with this. I do want to mention this. The foundation of my practice is meditation and mindfulness. And so I believe in a lot of loving kindness. I myself do a lot of meditation. I do meditation in my office with people online. I teach mindfulness, to older children, to adolescents, to adults, to couples. It's a way to bond. And it's so important when you're having an overwhelming day or an overwhelming week that you're loving and kind to each other. Okay, we can move on. And I hope at the end, if there's any more questions, I do have some of them I'm going to answer. I would love to hear your questions. Okay, mindful listening, again, meditation, mindfulness. So mindful listening is about being in the moment when we're talking to the person that we're with and being very attentive to what they're saying. It's about listening. That's the biggest part of mindful communication, is listening to what they're saying, not trying to interrupt them, but taking the time to listen, let them finish, and then you can respond, not react, but respond. And if you feel like you're going to react, and then that's going to be a problem for defensiveness, walk away for a little while and say, I'm going to come back so that we can finish this conversation when I'm feeling a little calmer. Also, one of the things I tell my clients and work with them on, especially people with ADHD, is ask, is this a good time to talk? One of the things that I think people tend to do is when they've had a very difficult day with children running around the house, somebody either walks through the door or now in the new world we're in, walks out of their office in the home and they get attacked. There's things that the other person wants to talk about. Check in with them. Say to them, is this a good time to talk? Give them an option to say, you know what, not right now. Can we do this in about an hour? Because when somebody's asking you, is this a good time to talk? This isn't going to be an easy conversation. Criticism never works. Judgment and criticism will only shut your partner down. It will never open the other person up. So please, if you can, stay away from criticism and judgment. So when we come to difficult topics, and one of the questions that I did receive was on, it was how to handle differences, preferences for medical treatment options. So I can speak to medication here. And this is a difficult topic. And so I do have clients that come in and they're very concerned because they're at a crossroads with their children as to what to do in terms of, do I medicate them? Do I put them on medication for ADHD? Do I put them on medication for depression and anxiety? How do I go about talking to a psychiatrist? We're in a time right now where there's a lot of therapists and psychiatrists who are completely booked. So I would do the best I can to make an appointment with a psychiatrist. And if you can't do that in the moment, go online and do a lot of reading about this. You certainly can always contact me. I have a lot of knowledge and information. I'm not a doctor, but I can tell you about my own situation when I was deciding to medicate my children. It was difficult to do, but I made the decision to do it because the ADHD and the depression and the anxiety was basically running their lives, and they weren't really fulfilling their lives in the moment. They just couldn't deal with what was happening. So when you're doing these difficult topics like the medication, you're going to have to talk to each other about this. Find out what the other person is thinking. Really listen to what they're saying. If it's one is, I'm thinking about this, and the other one is definitely no, see what you can do with information. If you can get in front of a psychiatrist or a pediatrician, talk to doctors so that they can explain to you the positives of the medication, the negatives, the side effects, all the things that you need to know. Gather as much information as you can before you make that decision. Humor is extremely important as we're taking a breath, okay? We need to take a lot of breaths when we're dealing with children with special needs, but we also need to laugh. Laughter is incredible medicine, and we can always find something funny in the moment to bring the family together. It's wonderful. Also, I really believe we need to agree to disagree at some point. We can't always fight to the end. We're going to have to leave the discussion and say, you know what, we're going to come back to this tomorrow. Let's agree to disagree. Let's go upstairs. Let's go inside. Let's have some quality time together. Agree to disagree. Okay, we can move on. Okay, so dealing with children with dysregulation. This is difficult. This can be very difficult. I'll tell you why, because they can be extremely manipulative in their communication. to us. They can go to one parent and say, you know, this is what I'd like to do. And that parent says, you know what, no, that's not going to happen. So they start with dysregulation, they start with a temper tantrum, and the other parent comes in, says, what's going on? And so I just had this morning with a couple that I'm working with, and their special needs child ran to the mother on Sunday night after the father said, you have to go to bed at 8:45, and said to the mom, this isn't fair because my younger twin siblings are staying up and I should be able to stay up. So the mother gave in to him, which causes a lot of issues then for the partners and how to deal with this. So be very, very careful when you're dealing with the children with ODD or dysregulation. Just make sure that you're communicating with each other first. They come running in the middle. Ask them to leave the room. I know that can be difficult at times. Maybe walk them out of the room while the two of you are deciding how you're going to handle this, or if you can wait a little while before you make the final decision, maybe you want to do that as well. Here's a big one. Let go of your need to be right. I often ask clients that I work with, is it more important to be loved or to be right? Let's kind of drop that. Let's, find out the information and talk to each other. Again, communication, really good, solid, effective communication doesn't happen without commitment, without feeling connected to that person. So if you're not connected, you really need to work on feeling connected to the person so that you can let go of that need to be right. Speak openly about the fears to each other that you have about your child or children. Talk about them, get them out, look at them, and, help each other through them. Cry about them, laugh about them, but help each other, be there for each other, and allow everybody to have their feelings and to speak about what they need. Here's another big one. Don't react, respond. So, years ago, when I was in the heat of ADHD and at times feeling very dysregulated, it would feel like a tidal wave of emotion was coming over me when I was trying to have a conversation with my husband at the time about my two children. And I would react, I would get angry, and the conversation would go nowhere. Nowadays, what I've learned is that when that tidal wave comes over, allow that tidal wave, give it some time to turn into a tide pool. And that's when you really want to then respond to whatever question or whatever comment that possibly might have set you off. That's the way to do it. Don't react, because that causes defensiveness, and then you're absolutely going nowhere. Okay, next slide. Okay, so this is a big one, making time for each other. Really, really important with kids with special needs. So I think every day we need to take the time to just kind of ask each other, how you doing? Just take a couple of minutes, check in about how was your day, what happened, even if it's in the morning, but in the morning it's a little bit hectic running around with the kids. But check in, maybe give each other a call, maybe text each other, just to see how you're doing. Big one, difficult discussions are not for the bedroom. That's a time for everybody to be connecting with each other. And, it's not necessarily about intimacy. It's about communication. It's about talking. Maybe it's about laughing. Maybe it's about turning on a movie and the two of you just relaxing and laughing. Don't bring difficult discussions into the bedroom. Leave them outside the bedroom, especially about the kids, because it can become very heated, it can become very emotional. They're your children. Each week, and this is something that kind of homework that I give my clients, is carve out time. So every Sunday night, this is a time when the kids are upstairs, they're in bed, sit down with each other for about a half an hour and talk about the week that's coming up. Talk about things that are happening. Are there sports games that are coming up? Do the kids have a lot of schoolwork this week? Are there tutors coming? Do the kids have to go to therapy? Who's going to be doing all this driving? Can, the person that's the one that's making the money in the family, like going off to work every day? Maybe both of you are going off to work. So how are you going to share this? Sit down with your books. I'm sure you all have planners. I sure hope you do. And just look at your week, look at your business week, and how are all those business things then going to fit in with everything you have to do with the children? Date night. And date night does not mean you have to go out and spend $300 on dinner. Date night can be put the kids to bed and make a candlelight dinner for each other, do some dancing, have some fun. This is important. And somebody asked in the questions about single parenting. And I encourage when there's a single parent. And for a long time, even though I was married, my husband did a lot of traveling and I was a single parent. So I had to make time for myself. I had to call my friends. I had to get a sitter in so I could go over my friend's house and have some laughter, some fun. Ask help from your family. If your family's here and you're comfortable with them being with your children, then invite them over so that you can get out. Maybe you can get away for a weekend. Even being a single parent, if you don't have family in the area, if you don't have a family member that can come and be with the kids, find someone that you really trust, that you can bring in on the weekend for you to get out, or maybe even go away, even a single parent going away. It's so important. You have to recharge your batteries and you have to self-care. And I would encourage everyone who's listening tonight, download an app for meditation. And here's how I started. A friend of mine that was in graduate school with me told me, you look like you need to meditate. And I told them, I don't think so, because I really wasn't into that at all. This was about 15 years ago. This is the only thing I've ever followed through on in my life. So he said 3 minutes a day, 30 days makes a habit. So I listened to him and it was hard, but 3 minutes, I did it. And after 15 days, my brain was craving that meditation. And so this is what I did along with mindfulness and a couple other things that I share with my adult clients I was able to change my life, create neuroplasticity in my brain and get in control of my own executive function deficits. Balance is incredibly important. There has to be balance. Work, family, time for yourselves. Each other needs time, maybe alone as well. Maybe somebody likes to go to the gym, somebody likes to go out for a run. So we have to be there. And the single parent needs to have somebody come in if they want to go to the gym or they want to go for a run. This is so important for our brains. Or just time to meditation and mindfulness. Mindfulness, living in the present moment, not living in the what if, in the future, that's anxiety, not living in the what was, that's the past, there's depression back there, living in the present moment. It's so important. Okay, next slide. Okay, now I'm going to share with you some parenting tips, because one of the things I have to say is what I noticed in raising my two children is when I felt like I was a good parent, when things were going well in the house, communication seemed to be a little bit easier with my husband at the time. So parents are the hierarchy of the family. They're the leaders of the family. And so the children don't get to make the rules, the parents make the rules. So how can you help your child? Everyday structure is absolutely critical, but what's also important, just as important as structure, is feeling heard. This is for the kids, feeling understood and feeling empathy and total acceptance for who they are. And they're wonderful little beings. And as they get older, they're wonderful older beings. They're wonderful. They're your most precious commodity. So structure is critical, but those other pieces are also. Encourage exercise. It turns on the frontal lobe by stimulating the cerebellum. Use the feet. The feet will help when they come home from school to help them then refocus back onto their homework. I know it's hard. They've held it together all day at school. They now have to come home and they have to do homework. I tell the kids I work with, if I ruled the world, there wouldn't be any homework, but I don't rule the world. So they have to come home. They have to get their homework done, and this way you can turn their brain on a little bit. I used to work with a Ringling Brothers and Barnum and Bailey Circus clown when I lived in California. He was hilarious. He had 2 boys, and every day when they would come home, he didn't want to put them on medication in the afternoons. They were on it in the morning. He would juggle with them for 30 minutes. And then he had them for 2 hours. They were completely focused for homework. So these are all things that you can also look up on the internet. When you have a dysregulated child, somebody with ODD or even just ADHD and ASD can be dysregulated very easily. I don't know how many of you know, I think a lot of you do, utilize the zones of regulation. It actually gives the children colors. Take those colors, blue, green, yellow, red, put them on the refrigerator, put them in their room. Let them point to you where they're at, how they're feeling. Because when they're at yellow, you still have an opportunity to get them back to green. When they're at red, very difficult. You're not going to be able to get them back. So for those of you who don't know about zones of regulation, go online, go Google it and read about it. Meditate with your child. Meditation for them is really important. You can teach them how to smell the flower and blow out the candles for little children. And then as they get older, you can download an app if they have a phone that they can listen to meditation. My teens that I work with, most of them are now slowly getting into meditation and mindfulness. Remain positive. That's just so important with kids. Remaining positive is one of the most important things. Okay, you can move on to the next screen. Okay, let me just mention for a minute about ASD for a minute. So with ASD, there's a few things that I want to add to the ADHD. Consistency is very important with that. My younger child was on the spectrum. Stick to a schedule. Schedules are very big with children that are on the spectrum. They want to know what's happening next, and they love structure, and they love to know that, oh, okay, I knew this was coming next. Reward good behavior. Pay attention to sensory issues. I know my younger child, they had a very difficult time with smells. So when I would pick them up from school, I couldn't have any gum in my mouth because spearmint or peppermint was horrible for them. They also didn't like certain kind of food. Mushrooms, for example, was a problem. Pay attention, talk to them, listen to them. Help them read facial expressions, help them understand social cues, and get them outside help. They're really going to need that. With kids with ADHD, understand their executive function deficits. Find out more about how important is a planner and time management. Understand about procrastination. Teach them the 5-second rule. This is something that I use in my practice and I use myself. 5, 4, 3, 2, 1, go. When I say go, I'm up. So procrastination, you can help them with it. It's a big deal, but you can help them. But learn as much as you can about whatever deficits that they have. Not everybody has the exact same ones. Talk to your child about a pause button. That's the pausing. Okay, so I sometimes would draw a pause button on my little clients' hands. If you press in on your hand right here, it's a reflexology point that can actually help a little bit with anxiety that you might be feeling, right? So you want to just teach them about how to take a breath. Take a long, deep breath and pause. Let's do that together. Sleep protocol. Most children with ADHD and ASD have a hard time falling asleep. They have anxiety. And when they lay down, they have a lot of thoughts that come up, and this is very difficult for them because they can't, when it's quiet, the thoughts really get going. So what's the protocol for sleep? You know, maybe you want to give them a relaxing bath with some Epsom salts in it, which is really magnesium, and you can talk to your pediatrician about it. This is all natural. There's another natural thing, melatonin, that you could use if they're really having a hard time sleeping. A lot of my clients struggle a lot with that. You know, meditation at night and you reading to them or allow them to read. If they're older, keep them away from their phone at night, at least an hour before they go to bed, put the devices away. Work on calmness in the family. I mean, I think that should be really something that the whole family works together on, is how to be calm, how to talk to each other calmly. And that comes from the top down. Therapy and coaching can be very helpful for both you and your child. Okay, we can move on. So here we go into adolescence, because they're a little different. So help them weather the storm. There's a lot of emotions that come up when the adolescence time with the hormones, and you know, they're going to come home some days and they're going to feel like, you know, they got picked on in school. Maybe something was said to them that wasn't very positive, so they're feeling shame. And that's a lot of what happens with ADHD, is there's a lot of shame that comes up for children and adolescents. Just give them a hug, help them with how they're feeling. Let them just talk to you. Don't try to fix it. Let them tell you how they're feeling. Don't, you know, I know this is at the bottom, but don't always ask them about school. Don't let that be the only interaction that you have with your children. Ask them about their day. What was the best part of your day? And don't tell me about school. I don't want to hear about school. Tell me about your day. What about your friends? What's going on? Communicate with them. The same way it talks about communicating with your partner, with your husband, with your wife. Communicate with them. Talk to them. You know, find out about how they're feeling, what's going on, because there's a lot going on today in this world. And when you have ADHD and ASD, it just adds to everything that they're experiencing. Accentuate their positives. We always want to celebrate their successes. And we just want to the negatives, just put them aside. Accentuate those positives. Get really excited when they're doing so well. Something happens positive in school, blow it up. Where possible, help them advocate for themselves. That helicopter where you're emailing the teachers, no. Let the kids email the teacher and let the kid get the response. And then you can coach them. You know, you do want to coach them versus control. That's the next line. But help them really to be their advocate, because before you know it, if they are going off to college, and with many kids with ADHD and ASD, I talk about a gap year, but if they are going off, you really want them to know how to advocate for themselves and you know, how to kind of move into college. We can't just all of a sudden drop that in their lap. Social interactions are very important with teenagers. And I worry a lot when kids come in and they have straight A's, but they don't have any friends. So the most important thing is that they're having social interactions. And again, the interactions just don't need to be about school. With the social, if you see social anxiety and you see them isolating, get them help. Really important. And always check in with them, see how they're feeling. What are they thinking about? Don't be afraid to ask them, are you thinking about hurting yourself? You know, have you harmed yourself? Is there any cutting going on? Don't be afraid, please, to talk about this. Okay, next slide. Okay, boundaries are very important, especially with adolescents. You know, you have to have boundaries. They're going to have boundaries too. And you have to talk about those boundaries. They may have boundaries in their room, you know, and you have to tell them that you want them to be honest with you. There can be lying going on with ADHD. And I'm sure if you've experienced this yourself, you know, You'll ask them, did you do their homework? Yes, no, they didn't. Many of them have missing assignments. You know what I used to do with my kids is I would have a mental health day. I would surprise them when they were in high school and middle school or just high school together. I would go into their rooms and I would say, okay, we're going to go to IHOP this morning. We're going to have pancakes, and then we're going to work on all your missing assignments. Because you know what? I wasn't going to shame them, because I was shamed as a child just with the words of lazy, stupid, and a procrastinator. So I wanted them to feel my support, and they had it. So sometimes I would give them a day to work on their missing assignments so that they could catch up. Because when they get overwhelmed, that can cause depression as well. So we don't want them getting overwhelmed. Ask them, get them into the solution. What do you need from me right now? Don't fix things for them. Don't tell them what you need. Ask them what they need. The negative symptoms, behaviors are not your team. They're just negative symptoms, they're behaviors. Please separate out those two. That's one of the biggest things, because their self-esteem issues at those ages are just so important. I have a lot of kids that come to me and they just feel so bad about themselves because they're not succeeding in school. Do they have B's and C's? Well, they're looking for A's because they're looking around them and they're seeing other kids are getting A's. Well, they have deficits. So I'm teaching them about those, and, you know, we're moving those grades up, but it's not about A's and B's and C's and D's. It's about effort. And that's what I used to tell my kids when they would leave for school. I'd say, guys, school is what you do. It is not who you are. Separate out those two things for your children. Okay. Okay, motivation does not happen in the presence of negative words. Motivation happens with positive words. Negative self-talk will never motivate us. So educational resources. Again, understanding what the accommodations your child or adolescents need. Make sure you communicate these accommodations. If you have a 504 or you have an IEP, I would suggest, I used to do this every year. At the beginning of the year, I would just kind of email the teachers. Before they got to high school, then the kids would take that over. But I would email the teachers just to reiterate, they have an IEP, here's their accommodations, just so they knew in the classroom what to expect. I would suggest you listen to podcasts. I have over 100 hours of podcasts on blogtalkradio.com. They're from a couple of years back. Now that I'm here in McLean, I'm going to get back into podcasts because they're a lot of fun and they're also very educational. And I think we need as many educational resources as parents as we can get. Okay, next slide. Okay, so these are books. These are some of the books that I love that I wanted to share with all of you tonight. You know, a parent's guide to high functioning autism and spectrum disorder. And I read this book. It's got a lot of really good information. One of my very, very good friends wrote the book Raising Lions, Joe Newman. He's actually in California, but he can Zoom all over the country. This book is pretty incredible for people that have children with oppositional defiant disorder. He talks about a whole protocol in this book, and he'd be willing to meet, which he did with a lot of my clients, to just get them started on the protocol. I would suggest this. This is absolutely a very important read. Not what I expected. So when we get married and we make commitments to each other and we have a family, we didn't expect that we were going to have special needs children. We didn't start out that way. But this book is wonderful and really helps you to embrace absolutely what you have. This next book is something that I use in my my practice for couples that I work with. I happen to be a friend with Melissa Orliv, and she's wonderful. And this is really her story of does not have ADHD, was married to someone with ADHD, and she walks you through the 6 steps to rebuilding your relationship in the book. And I do use this. It's a really wonderful book and helps people to absolutely reconnect. The next book is Positive Parenting for Autism. This is another really good read. The one in the middle, this one is a really good book. It's There's a Bully in My Brain. And this will help your children give a lot of words to their anxiety and to understand what's going on in their brain, because many times they have these barrage of thoughts, intrusive thoughts that come up, and they don't understand what's happening. This book can really help them understand what's going on. This next book, Scattered by Dr. Gabor Mate. This is a definite read for everybody dealing with attention deficit disorder, both of yourself and your family. Dr. Gabor Mate himself has ADHD, and the way he writes, and this book is actually from 1978, but the way he writes, he talks about what's underneath the ADHD at every junction in your life. So he talks about children, he talks about adolescents, he talks about what they need, talks about adults and his own walk with ADHD and his children. So I think that's it for slides. And so I really wanted to answer these questions that were sent to me. And after I answer those, if anybody has any other questions, I'd be happy to answer them. So I think I answered the one about handling the differences with the medical treatments. So how do you handle resentment? Okay, I'm going to answer that question and I'm going to read the next question. I'm the go-to fallback parent for everything, but especially care of our kiddo with various needs. It makes sense because my spouse's work is much more time demanding, but it means that he is not as engaged or up on the latest from school/therapy. He wants to be more engaged, but it's hard to actually make it happen. And it's hard not to feel resentful over how disproportionately the parenting and emotional baggage falls in the house. That is resentment right there. So how do you deal with resentment? You talk about your resentment. You talk to your husband about how you're feeling and how you may need him to pick up a little bit of the slack. Maybe if he wants to know about school and about therapy, maybe he needs to go to a meeting, or maybe he needs to call the therapist and check in with the therapist, go in maybe for a session. But that resentment that builds, then what happens is we can be very cruel, we can be critical, we can be judgmental to the person that we're feeling resentful to. And we don't want to do that because that isn't going to help us stay connected. So I think we really need to communicate to each other how we're feeling. And if you can't work through that resentment yourself, please reach out for help, because there's a lot of help out there for that. Any tips for blended families with special needs children? I had special blended children and a special needs child, stepchild. And this is a difficult, very touchy situation at times, because the parent will stick up for their biological child and sometimes forget that the other child, the stepchild that's coming to spend the night, also has special needs and needs what you're giving to your children. This is can be a very complicated situation. If you have two parents that are communicating effectively with each other, two parents that love each other and love their children, this can work, but you need to be able to communicate. And I would suggest that you get help with this, outside help with this, because this is something that's kind of a special take on it, with the whole feeling of biological, non-biological, and then who suffers with that? It's the children who suffers, not the adults, the children, and that's what's sad. And then I think I added the answer to the support for single parents in the presentation. So is there any other questions? Hello?
Sorry, I'm trying to turn my camera
Oh,
back on.
sure. Sorry.
No
I
problem.
thought maybe I did that whole thing and
No.
nobody heard me.
Sorry, I got a new computer and it's doing sort of unexpected things. And I apologize to everybody about the blue line, that I have no idea how it got there or how to take it away. So we did get a couple other questions after I'd sent you some of those. Let's see. Okay, so one was, how do you strike the balance of encouraging and pushing your child? Sometimes a child hesitates with participating in something like an after-school activity because they lack self-confidence. And so they end up being sad about it later. This repeats without a lesson learned from earlier experiences.
Yeah, and again, you know, that is not an easy fix, because it depends on what's going on with the child. If there's social anxiety here, then I would suggest that we first figure that out and possibly get that child some help with the social anxiety. But here's the thing, you know, I like to trade off, right? So with the kids that I see, if the parents, like from behind, will say to me, I need him or her to be involved after school programs, and they're not doing it, but they love their devices. So I tell the parents, you know, trade the time. Okay. First of all, let's talk a little, just for a second, about devices. Be very careful with the amount of time that you're allowing your children to be on any kind of device. Okay. It's just, you know, it really hits their dopamine. It can cause them to become addicted to these things seriously. And it's just not a good take. So there's a lot of books out there. There's a book called Dopamine Nation that I read. There's a lot of information on this. So what I might do is, you want your children to interact with other kids. And I understand that. You want them to have after school activities. You want them to move, negotiate with them, depending on their age, a little bit with, you know, tell you what, if you go to an hour after school program, I'll give you an extra 20 minutes on the device. I say during the week, there should be no more than an hour on the devices. Now, I say it in front of the kids, and the kids don't particularly like me for that, but they get over it. They understand when I explain to them that this is about their brain and the kind of brains that they have. So I might try some of that negotiation, but first check in to see, is this social anxiety first? And thank you for that question. Thanks for all the questions. I appreciate it.
Thank you. And anyone can feel free, put a question in the chat, or if you'd like to just turn on your mic, feel free to do that as well. Let's see, another question that we got. Let's see, how can the custodial and non-custodial parent get on the same page better? Non-custodial lives in another state and is resistant towards medication.
Yeah, it's a big problem. Or it's a big challenge, I should say, not so much. So the non-custodial parent, you want to include them, even though I guess they really don't. Do they have anything to say in this case? I don't know. But okay, just let me say this. I think the most important thing is everybody's on the same page, because the last thing you want is for the child to go off to visit the non-custodial parent and then to be put in the middle. You know, I'm not going to give you your medicine. I have seen this happen. I told your mother you're not going to be on medicine, or I told your father, so therefore I'm going to throw it out. You're not going to have it. So there has to be a middle ground, and there has to be a way to communicate through this. And here's where I would really push for the custodial and non-custodial, even being out of state, because you now can do this online, to have a professional intervene and to talk about this and help both of them understand how their disagreeing is hurting the child, because the child then feels like they have to protect And it's just causes so many issues for the child. And then they're not getting the medication that they need, which, you know, the custodial parent already decided with, I guess, the doctor that they need this medication. But the non-custodial parent should be talking to the doctor too, to find out everything that's going on.
Great, thank you. Let's see, I think I have one more that was pre-submitted. Let's see, limited executive functioning makes it difficult for a teen to clean a room up and pack for a trip. But being a, in parentheses, super stubborn teen, they won't accept help. Teen explains that they are completely overwhelmed. Any tips?
Okay, yeah, that's what happens with their room. So I get that they don't want any help. You know, they don't want the parent to come in the room and help them clean the room. But as I say to the teens that I work with, let's talk about your room. I had this conversation this week with one of the girls that I see who's 16. And I was saying, is there stuff on the floor? And she said, oh yeah, my clothes are all over the floor. I said, okay. I want you to make a rule for yourself. The rule is there's nothing on the floor. And she just looked at me and she said, oh, that's pretty cool. I can make my own rule. Yeah. And the rule is, and write it down, put it on a whiteboard. She has a whiteboard in her room. There are no clothes allowed on the floor. That's my rule. So she said, that's great. I'm going to do that. Now the rest of the room, see, you don't want to just tell your kid to clean the room. They're not going to do it because they're overwhelmed and they shut down immediately. You really have to ask them. So I understand that it overwhelms you to clean the room. Tell me how you would like to clean the room. What would make it easier for you to clean the room? Sections of the room is really the way to do it. Like section off the room with them. Say, look, you see that over there? Just clean, just focus on that. It's kind of like chunking an assignment in school. Now you want to chunk the room for them. And again, if they won't hear this from you, reach out and get some help, somebody that can help them with this. And it's not mom or dad. In terms of packing, it's so difficult for people with ADHD because they either pack too much or they don't pack enough. So my suggestion to people who have to pack, and especially teens, is they make a list. They sit down, they make a list, and they go look at the list after they write it. Because what's going to happen is they're going to have a lot of things on this list that when they go back and they're going to get on a plane, they have to realize that they're going to have to, you know, pay for their luggage if they have too much that's going into their luggage. So lists are a good thing, is a very good thing for packing, and to go back over the list and to make it smaller. Like, look at what I can take out. Do I really need, I'm going for 3 days. Do I need 2 suitcases for 3 days? Yeah.
And I actually got a couple other questions by direct message, which is a great reminder if you wish to remain anonymous. I know it's being recorded, so feel free to just direct message me and I can read out the question. So one question is, let's see, how to help non-ADHD parent understand when they view ADHD mom and child as just not choosing to do better, etc. Non-ADHD parent doesn't want to learn about ADHD.
Okay, so one of the books that I meant to put on the list that I forgot to put on the list, and I am sorry, is called Driven to Distraction. I guess I don't understand the non-ADHD parent not wanting to learn about what their wife and their child is struggling with. The Driven to Distraction, written by Ned Hallowell and Dr. Rady, is an incredible book because it actually can walk you through different scenarios that people with ADHD go through every single day. So my suggestion to this person is that they get the book, that they read the book, and they really work on trying to understand what's happening in the world of their wife and child. At the same time, not their child, but their wife needs to understand what they're going through, how difficult it is for them because they don't have the same brain that we have, and they don't understand the way we operate. So the book that I talked about with the ADHD spouse, Melissa Orlib book, that would be something to also either download and listen to or read. Downloading and listening to books is great. So, I mean, I think it's got to be a two-way street, but I really think he needs to understand what's going on with both of them.
Great. The next question is, spouse travels a lot. When the spouse returns, it's like he wants to assert himself in a system that is running like a well-oiled machine. This becomes disruptive and seems like just wanting to show his dominance or control. How can he be involved without upsetting everything? Child has ADHD, autism, and anxiety.
Wow. Okay. So yeah, that's very difficult because he's gone all week and he wants to come home and feel like he's a contributing member of the family and be part of that system. And I understand that. So I think maybe what might be a good idea is before he comes home, that he and his wife Zoom and they talk about what it's going to look like when he walks through the door. What does she need from him? What can he do to help her? It's not about what he necessarily wants to come in and take over, but since she's been running the system without him for a week, what is she going to need from him? And what does he need in terms of feeling more connected to that family when he walks through the door? I see a question up here, I think. How does one go about disciplining a child with sensory processing disorder, possible ADHD, and limited executive functioning when the child is testing boundaries, pushing buttons with a younger sibling or parent, and has a sensory meltdown? Both mom and dad have different approaches, but it seems like the child doesn't accept what he did to the younger sibling was acceptable. For example, the child would have a full-blown meltdown when he doesn't get, say, a chocolate chip cookie, when ultimately he never asked for one and younger sister did. There's always large, full-blown reactions. I wonder, how old is this child? 6. Okay, yeah. So, have you contacted, I would suggest, a younger sister is 3. Okay, you got a lot going on. You know, I would really suggest that you get him with someone who is an expert in, first of all, child specialist. There's a lot of really good ones. I know so many of them are filled up, but also someone who really understands sensory integration and can help him regulate. That would be my first suggestion there. And then he's very sensory processing possible. Okay, so he hasn't been diagnosed yet with ADHD and limited executive functioning. So I think starting with someone who really is an expert with children and sensory processing disorder might be very helpful. Also, I believe that occupational therapy can be very helpful with a 6-year-old who has sensory processing and possible ADHD. You might want to look into that as well. I hope that's helpful.
That's great. I don't have any other questions on my chat, but I'm glad people are reaching out to you directly too. So feel free to.
Hey, Kathleen, Allison, my camera is disabled, so I can't pop on screen. But I just want to chime in because I think it's important to point out there's different levels of access to, well, just financial access to
Yes.
the services that you might need for your child. We came across behavior intervention services based on some testing that we had done with my son at Children's, and she said, hey, you live in Arlington, they have this really great service and they will come to your house. And we've had great luck with behavior intervention services. We have used Martha Albright, and it is a low cost option.
Great.
And so I want to put that plug in because
Do you have a phone number for them?
give me half a second and I
Yeah.
can look it
It's
up.
so helpful.
But I think it's really important to know that there are options available.
Yeah.
And in this journey that I have been on with my family, one of the things that my husband and I had to learn is how best to help our children and how to meet them where they were.
Yeah.
And so it wasn't them that necessarily needed the therapy. It was us that needed some training.
Mhm. Yeah.
And that was sometimes a hard pill to swallow for both my husband and I, because we both thought what we're doing was right. And it's not really a right or a wrong in the parenting realm. I feel like it's more meeting the child's needs.
Mhm.
And so one of the things behavior intervention services does differently is they will come and they only work with the parents.
Great. That's great.
Oh,
I love
perfect.
that.
Kathleen, thank you, Kathleen, for putting that in there. I'm talking and trying to look it up at the same time.
Yeah.
And I
Maybe
can't
you could
right.
email it to me if you
Yeah.
can't find it right now. I would really love that. Thank you so much.
Yeah.
That's really good information. I appreciate it. I'm fairly new to the area, so anything that I can find out about like that would be very helpful for me.
Okay.
Thank you.
I think
Kathleen, this is Kathleen Donovan from the Parent Resource Center. And Justine, thanks so much for this amazing, helpful, filled with
Thank you.
practical tips. We've heard lots of positive things about BIS, the Behavior Intervention Services. I'm also going to pop a link in from SCAN of Northern Virginia. They are they've always had parenting classes, but they're now also offering one-on-one family coaching. So I'll put a link
Great.
and you can sign up and register for that as well.
Great. That's wonderful. Okay.
Are there any other questions? Feel free to chime up.
And I just put the phone number in the chat.
Okay, great. Thank you so much. Okay.
All right. Well, Justine, this was excellent. There's a
Well,
lot of
thank
good
you.
information. Thank you.
Thank you so much. I really appreciate it, Allison. And I want to thank everybody that was on and I really enjoyed it. So thank you.
Maybe we could stay on for,
Sure.
5 or 10 more minutes, just to see if there are any more questions.
Absolutely. I'm happy to. Yes.
Actually, here's another question. Do you have suggestions for how families can work with school staff when ADHD students hit or hurt staff or students besides repeated suspensions?
So I think it's really, really important that you have, when it's that level of something, that you have some help when you go into the school. you know, is the child, so can you give me more information? What's going on with the child?
Oh, wait and see if there's some follow-up information. Elementary school child.
Okay, and they're having a hard time with behavior in the school?
Yes.
Oh, so they're getting in trouble at the school. Yeah. Do they have an IEP? Do you know? Or a 504, or what? They have an IEP. Okay, so I think they need to call an IEP meeting and talk about what's going on and what is the school doing, and you know, what are the parents willing to do at home, and kind of connect the circle. I guess, are there people that in Ccpta, can they come to you for information about this if they're struggling with that would be for me to know too. If somebody needed, you know, some help with a school meeting that they were attending, could they come to you for some help with that?
So, you know, we can provide direction to parents on where to find help. You know, because we're not professionals, we can't necessarily give direct advice. We could say what's worked for us personally, or what we know has worked for other parents, but we can put them in touch with like the Parent Resource Center.
So Kathleen Donovan just posted this, which is great. She said there are a variety of behavioral interventions available at school. For children with IEPs, the IEP team can conduct a functional behavior analysis. Yes, to understand the behavior, and the team can develop a behavior intervention plan. The Parent Resource Center offers free one-on-one consultations on collaborating with the school staff and working. That's great with IEP teams. That's great. We can be reached at 703-228-7. Okay, that's great. Thank you, Kathleen.
And there was a little bit of follow-up from the original question. Child doesn't regulate emotions, and when he's upset, doesn't regulate emotion, and when he's upset, however, school is responding and things escalate.
Yeah, and so I think Kathleen's suggestion about calling an IEP and maybe the possibility of having a functional behavior analysis to really figure out what's going on, and then from there kind of work with the school. Once they find out what's going on with the child, they can work with the school at, you know, at that level to say, what are we going to put in place to help this child in the classroom, or whatever they're going to need.
And there is a follow-up saying functional behavior plan was requested but not done by the school. And I would really recommend to everyone that, so on Ccpta's website, we have sort of you know, a tier of who to contact when you're having trouble with your IP, or getting through to teachers or the principal. What's the next step to take?
Right.
So I would definitely visit that. And seriously, but PRC is always there and very helpful and helping you navigate who the right person is to go to next to escalate it and get things moving.
Which is great. So I would like to throw something out to everybody who's listening, and you can tell me, you can email me to give me an answer, but I was interested. I used to run support groups in California, and I was interested in doing a parent support group for children with children of special needs. I can actually do it online. And I was also thinking that if anybody wanted to do it in person, I do have a room here at the building that I could do it in, but we might want to keep it online. And I was thinking more towards the summer months that I would start this group, and because I feel like I'll have some time freed up over the summer. So if anybody's interested in a support group, if you would email me, that would be awesome. And then we can communicate back and forth.
And Wendy posted where you can find the guide for who to contact next in APS. So if anyone needs that.
We also have on our website, just to solicit feedback, one of the if parents are finding that they are not, you're following the channels and they're not getting the help that they need, we do have a spot on our Ccpta website where you can provide that feedback. And we scrub the data so we don't make available names of people that submit, and I believe you can submit anonymously. But one of the things that we have definitely tried to do in the last couple of years is look for trends in the data. So if we notice that there are instances where specific schools are not supporting IEPs in a way, or if it's certain trends in needs across the county for autism support, or whatever the case may be, we do follow the data and the trends to understand if there's bigger things in the community that we can be advocating for. So I just want to put that reminder plug in that we do take that information, and we do not do anything with personal information included there, but it does help us understand where we can provide some more support for Ccpta, from Ccpta.
So somebody just said, I'd be interested in a support group, but I often feel like having a child with physical and developmental disabilities often doesn't fit the focus of most support groups. So just let me throw out, it's to Cecilia that this support group would be for couples that deal with special needs children. So we certainly could, you know, address that in the meeting, but I think it's more about what I'm going to focus more on isn't so much about ADD or ADHD or ASD. It's more about communication, about, you know, being the best couple you can be, the strongest couple you can be, to be the best parent you can be for children with special needs. If that helps, Cecilia, at all. I just would love to have you join us.
Yeah, I think that's interesting because I, you know, now that I think about it, you know, there are support groups out there for parents, but not, I don't know that I've come across any that focus on sort of like the couple.
Right. And that's what I did in
parenting.
California. And it was besides, I also ran an adult support group for ADHD, but I did this couple group that was really great. I mean, it really helped people so much to just be in a room with other couples that were experiencing, you know, similar lives to theirs and be able to communicate with each other. It was wonderful.
Let's see, any more? I feel like this keeps moving, but there's a question. How do we reach you?
Okay, so let me give them my phone number in here.
Mhm.
You can also email me, which I can put down as well. Hang on. So there's my phone number and my email. What's up with the blue line on the slide?
Oh, I think you might have sent the, oh, yes, that's all me.
Is that, no, somebody just asked. She says,
I
is
saw
that a
that.
symbol for something?
Yeah. Nope, just a symbol for the way things are in life right now. I think the phone number you might have responded to
Oh, you want me to
a
type
direct
it again?
message and not the whole group.
Okay, so,
You might wanna send that
oh,
again.
I see. It says to share. Okay, so how do I respond to the whole group? I guess
Where
direct
it
message.
says a person's name on
Yes.
the bottom, you click on that blue button and go and scroll to, I think it's everybody. Let's see. If you scroll to the top, it'll say everyone in meeting.
Okay.
Yeah.
Got it. Okay, here we go.
There we go. And also if you want to include your website, oh, you
Sure.
put in your email.
And also, you can listen to my podcasts on here. I'll show you. They're all free too. Yeah.
Oh, I think the auto-corrected Miss ADD.
Oh, yeah, I'm sorry. It's Miss ADD. God bless technology. Okay, Miss, yeah, come on. That's hilarious. Okay, there we go. It's
Great.
Justine at Miss, yeah, let me type that again. Again, it auto-corrected it. Justine at MISSADD.com. There we go. Yes, okay.
Great.
Thank you.
Okay. Well, we've hit 9 o'clock, so I wanted to respect everybody's time. This was so helpful and such an important topic. I mean,
Thank you. Thank you
I've
so
been wanting
much.
to address this for a while, so I'm really glad you could join us.
Thank you. I appreciate that. I really do. Everybody have a great night.
Thank you so
Thank
much.
you.
Okay,
Thank
bye-bye.
you.
How did I do?